Namaste and welcome to Delhi. This is our first day exploring Delhi, and our first stop on our trip today is check out the Red Fort. Now this is actually the only fort that I had heard about in advance before coming to India, but since then we have seen 6 other forts. So this is our 7th fort that we are going to be visiting, and they've all been pretty amazing and unique in their own ways. So I actually have pretty high expectations of this one because, like I said, I had heard of it before. So I think this one's going to have a lot of history and some cool things to see.
The big highlight of the day.
It is. This moat is pretty epic still, just filled with greenery now. Very cool entranceway. This is a really interesting wall. It looks like a door. Oh, it looks way better from this side. Wow. The Hall of Public Audience. Wow, this must be important if it's behind glass. There are some really amazing painted tiles on the inside. A little bit too far away to see though. We're inside the actual fort walls now, and we didn't realize how absolutely massive this place is. Like, it looks like we could spend an entire day here if we wanted to. You can't even see the walls from where we are right now.
That's all flat. They've never been like that before.
Oh yeah, usually it's like up on a hill or something.
Something like that. This is down low, and it's just so wide and open.
That's so true. I didn't realize
Yeah,
that. Like,
yeah.
it's actually like, you know, the normal floor, not just like concrete everywhere.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that is different.
Whereas normally up on the hills it's rocky.
Hmm.
Whereas here it's just like a walled city.
Right, yeah, that's exactly what it is. This whole thing would have been beautiful, filled with water. Off limits. This is part of the Emperor's Palace. Once again, off limits for some reason. Amazing tiles. Look at this doorway. I love it. Like I said before, this is our 7th fort we've been to, but this is the first one where we're not allowed to go into any of the buildings. So, like, it's a really large complex with a ton of buildings around, but we actually can't go inside them, so it's pretty weird.
Yeah, a couple of reviews we read were saying, you know, don't bother with this one. So, you know, you take reviews with a pinch of salt. It's another fascinating fort. This one looks huge. It has some famous buildings inside. But I guess this is why people don't recommend this one, because we're just walking around the grounds.
Yeah, the grounds are amazing, but like I also like to go inside. Like the main thing that I want to see in India is the architecture. So like, if I can't go inside to see it, it's pretty disappointing. Hello again. It is a couple days later and we have just come to this amazing mosque. This is Jama Masjid. It was built in the 1600s. It is one of the largest mosques in all of India. Apparently it can hold 25,000 people. So for the last few days in Delhi, we've kind of just been taking it pretty easy actually. We've spent 2 months in India at this point, and this is our last stop. So we are flying out tomorrow, which we're pretty excited about. Mixed feelings about actually. India is a huge, huge destination. Obviously we're planning several more trips to come back here because you can't possibly see it all in 2 months or in 2 years. But yeah, so we're leaving tomorrow, but I feel almost as if there was my life before traveling to India and after traveling to India. There have been so many new experiences, so many things I've never seen before, never heard of before. The scale, the absolute scale of this country and everything in it. I'm not talking about just the architecture, but also the population. They have a population of over 1.4 billion people. Like, can you even fathom that number? I can't. Delhi, for example, has a population of 31 million people, which is just one city. And Canada has a population of 31 million people, which is an entire country, the 2nd largest country in the world. So the scale of the population alone is mind-blowing, and I can't wrap my head around it whatsoever. Then you throw on all of the culture as well. Like, there are 1,200 languages spoken in this country, and each state varies so much. I mean, we've seen it ourselves. We traveled to Mumbai, Jaisalmer, Jodhpur, Pushkar, Jaipur, Agra, and now Delhi. So 7 cities in India, and all of them were so different from each other. Different unique cultures in each of these places, and that's only 7. The country is huge and we'll never ever be able to see it all. But yeah, as I said, like, life before India and life after India. That will be how my life is separated now, and I'll think about it. But yeah, there's just been so much perspective on everything in the world and how the world works. As I said before, we've just been taking it pretty easy here in Delhi. We saw the Red Fort a couple days ago, and then 2 days ago we went to the Lotus Temple. This is an absolutely beautiful temple, so unique from everything else we've ever seen. In fact, the architecture kind of reminds me of the Sydney Opera House more than anything. But this is a modern temple dedicated to the Baha'i religion, which I hadn't actually ever heard of before. Very interesting religion. Apparently it's like a stem of Islam, but also quite different from it. I'm not going to go into detail to try to explain that religion. Very peaceful sounding religion, but our experience there was probably one of our worst experiences that we had in India, because we arrived there at around 11 and we didn't realize that was a huge popular destination for people to visit. So we got there and we ended up needing to wait in a queue in, of course, 36-degree heat. So if we had done the research and realized that, we would have left much earlier. But anyway, we got there when we did, and had to wait in this queue for 40 minutes, which was fine, whatever, we can wait in the queue. But the bad part of it was when we got closer and closer to the door, people just kept like rushing the door, and it just turned into a crazy mosh of people squishing into the door. And of course, coming from Canada, where I have a ton of space and nobody for miles around typically, and then all of a sudden to have men pressing on me with hands in questionable places, women with crying babies in my face, just people pushing, like eight rows back, pushing and feeling it all the way in the front. Like, it was a very uncomfortable mosh. And then right as we were at the front, a big tour bus of tourists came and just skipped the queue. Like, just pushed their way into the queue, into the front, and Carl and I just got so frustrated, so angry at the situation. It was very disrespectful to skip an entire queue. This is a religious site. Like, it's not paid entry, it's free. There's no skip the queue line. There's no skip the queue tickets. There's one queue and everyone has to go through it. So there were other people skipping the queue, of course, but just to see this group of white tourists just come in and skip a queue 40 minutes long, like, it just really made us angry. So it started off that day pretty badly, and unfortunately I wasn't able to make a very good vlog about it. I just kind of did the scenic shots of the temple, which is fine, but I wasn't in a great state of mind for actually recording a good vlog about that, so I apologize. Today is actually our last day in Delhi and our last day in India, so we decided to come out and see this magnificent structure. Construction was completed by Shah Jahan, who was, of course, the person who commissioned the Taj Mahal. So, you know, it's going to be amazing architecture. Let's check it out. Of course, we're not allowed to take photos or videos inside, so, but a staff member came and, like, you know, showed us around, and he let me take a few pictures, so that was cool. Crazy place. Wow, that's how they keep the chicken.
Relative, of course.
Hello again from a different location, actually. So we're no longer in India. I meant to do an outro in Delhi, but our last day ended up being pretty hectic, pretty crazy, as most things are in India, of course. Our trip to the airport was super smooth, but just so much to do in that airport that I didn't get around to actually doing the outro to this video. So I just wanted to say that our trip to India was unlike any other trip that we've ever done before. As I said before, I feel like my life is now divided into before I went to India and after I went to India. It was just such a trip of ups and downs, wild roller coasters of emotions, really high highs, really low lows. And by really low lows, I'm talking about the poverty. I didn't want to show too much of that in my videos. I didn't really like sticking my camera in the faces of people that were struggling with poverty. So I didn't show much of that, but also the highs were incredible. Like the architecture in India and the history that's there and the culture that is so prevalent even still in this day and age was really remarkable to see, and I feel like I'm forever changed by the experience. So our last few days in Delhi, we just kind of chilled out, as I said, saw just a couple things here and there. We are now planning our next few trips back to India. So after 2 months there, we're going to need to take at least 3 more trips to India, just for different parts of the country that I want to see and to be able to devote enough time to each of these places. So like I said, we had been in India for 2 whole months, roughly 10 days in each place. Sometimes a little bit less, sometimes only a week, but yeah, I definitely want to do that again for southern India, in the west, and also the north. A lot more trips coming for India. This trip is unfortunately over, but we've got very exciting new places coming up as well, so stay tuned for that.